Hi, I'm Mike Rizzo.
And I'm Michelle Rizzo.
And this is Northwest Brew Talk. Welcome to Northwest Brew Talk, episode number 51. Each and every week, we promote the Washington brewing industry by talking to those people involved and drinking Washington beer. With over 300 breweries, we try to highlight as many as possible every episode. If you're new to the show, we suggest you check out our back catalog with some great interviews and lots of Washington beer. This week, we have an interview with industry pioneer Mike Hale, our brew news, and local music from Bread and Butter.
If you have any comments or questions, send us an email to nwbrewtalk@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at nwbrewtalk and on Facebook at facebook.com/nwbrewtalk. If you like the show and want to support us, why not become a patron? With a donation, we offer everything from guest hosting a show to a copy of our upcoming book, Washington Beer. Head over to nwbrewtalk.com for more details. To start the show, let's open our first beer.
Okay, what do we got here today, Michelle?
This is Black Raven Kitty Cat Blues. Right. Black Raven is open 7 days a week. To everyone 21 and over. They are located in Redmond.
That smells good.
The Kitty Cat Blues description from their website is, we took an unassuming pale ale and turned the screws a bit with additions of dried blueberries, vanilla bean, and organic mountain-grown catnip. The result is an easy-drinking pale ale that finishes like this morning's blueberry muffin. Be sure to hide the cats. They might take a shine to this one. It's got 5.8% ABV, 35 IBUs, and an untapped rating of 3.81, one of the higher ratings.
Wow. First of all, you can smell blueberries.
Oh, yeah.
Smell blueberries. It's got a, it's like an amber color. And it's a little, is it a little hoppy, I guess?
A little bit, but I taste a lot of blueberry in there.
Yeah, definitely blueberry. Yeah, definitely, especially in the aftertaste.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like it.
Catnip.
It's different.
Come here, kitty.
Yeah, I don't know that I taste the catnip, although I can't say I have tried catnip in my life.
How about vanilla bean? I'm not sure. Maybe it's just mixed in there really well. But yeah, the blueberry you can definitely taste.
Yeah, the blueberry comes out.
But that's pretty good. That's a different, something different pale ale. It's a limited release, huh? All right. Nice. Black Raven is one of the breweries in the state that's doing some different stuff, and we like to try their stuff out. But yeah, that was pretty good.
Topping this week's news. There are a lot of events taking place this weekend, starting with Strange Brewfest 12, happening Friday and Saturday, January 29th and 30th in Port Townsend. This is the festival where many brewers let their hair down and create some interesting concoctions. There will be 35 breweries and over 70 different beers to sample. Tickets are $30 for both days, so book your room now so you can enjoy the fun. Also this Friday, January 29th, Foggy Noggin in Bothell will host a tasting of 8 different English bitters. This will be a special journey learning about these styles and tasting the subtle differences these all have. Only 20 spots available, $25 per person, 21 and over. The Belgian Fest, sponsored by Washington Beer, is back this Saturday, January 30th. The event will be held at Seattle Center Fisher Pavilion. There will be over 90 Belgian-style beers crafted by Washington brewers available. Featured beer styles include triples, doubles, saisons, wits, abbeys, and lambics. In keeping with this unique style, all of the beers are brewed with Belgian yeast. Tickets for the 21 and over event are $35.
River City Brewing in Spokane had a great 2015 and will be celebrating its 3rd anniversary this Saturday, January 30th from 3 to 10 p.m. with some special beers, live music, and food. And the event is all ages, will include 12 different beers on tap, including 4 2014 vintages. Bratwurst Cafe in Seattle will have its 14th annual Hard Liver Barley Wine Festival on Saturday, February 27th. This is a celebration of this amazing style of beer with over 50 barley wine, old ales on draft starting at 11 a.m. There's usually a line for this much anticipated event, so get there early.
The third annual Hop Mob Roadshow will kick off at Browers Cafe on Thursday, February 4th. The term Hop Mob refers to a robust collection of triple IPAs. These super hoppy beers typically weigh in at more than 10% alcohol by volume. The roadshow takes place over 10 days, and as of now, there are 35 participating breweries. For more info on the Hop Mob Roadshow, go to this website, www.wahopmob.com. That's WAHOPMOB.com. The annual Pike Choco Fest will be held this Sunday, January 31st from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. This adult-only event is romantic food and drink lovers' delight, featuring over 65 of the area's premier breweries, wineries, distilleries, restaurants, cheesemakers, bakers, and chocolatiers will fill the Pike Brewing Company and entice you with delicious bites and tastes. Sample rare cask beers, many featuring chocolate, from the Puget Sound's top brewers. Best of all, Pike Choco Fest benefits Puget Soundkeeper, who is protecting and preserving the waters of Puget Sound.
Skagit Valley College in Mount Vernon is offering a new program this spring called Craft Brewing Academy. This is the first program of its kind in the state. I met with Lynette Bennett and Arden Ainley to discuss this new program.
So we are launching a Craft Brew Academy for starting this spring quarter. It's a full-time 3.5-month academy, meaning it's 40 hours a week, brewing on the weekends, kind of an intensive training all at once. And when students are done, they will be somewhat prepared to enter the brewing industry as entry-level brewers. They'll have been brewing for 3 months. They'll have an internship, a 40-hour-a-week internship that they will have done, and then they will have a little bit of background in the history of brewing, the business of brewing, marketing, quality control, regulations, and things like that.
So how did the program come about? You're the first community college to offer a program like this in the state, right?
That's correct. Skagit Valley is part of an innovation partnership zone, which is something that the governor assigns, and we are value-added agriculture. So it's part of a bigger regional initiative to have agriculture kind of reboost, and so it's part of the work Skagit Valley Malting is doing, that WSU Bread Lab and what they're doing with their facilities, and then this craft brew program. So looking at the hops, the wheat, things that we can grow in the valley and use locally in our products. And so craft brew is booming in our area, and so we thought this would be a great program and a good launch.
Yeah, that's those other programs we talked with Bridget over at WSU. Mm-hmm. WSU? Mm-hmm. Yeah. and it's the things that are going on here in this area are very interesting, and this does make a good complement to that. So the brewers approached you about this, correct?
I believe so. We looked into it. We do, for every new program or interest, we do what's called an advisory committee. So we had brewers from all over Washington come and just talk about, is there a need in the industry? Is there going to be a student demand for this? What would an entry-level brewer need to know about? Could we do this in a certificate or a 2-year degree? Is it something they would need 4 years for? So those are all kind of the questions that were answered, and then through that we determined that this type of 1 year, or in our case we're condensing it into 3-month certificate program, would be a great entry point into the industry. And the brewing community has been overwhelmingly supportive. I know they're supportive of each other, and they've been really supportive of us. And so about 4 brewers have stayed on and have been intensively working with us on the curriculum, and they've written it, and they're going to be teaching it, and so they're coming through, so that's exciting.
Yeah. Now, by condensing this this is not a normal type program like this, where you would do 40 hours a week plus weekends, right?
Yeah, we call it an academy model.
Right.
We only have one other one on campus,
okay.
For parks law enforcement.
Okay.
But, we're taking about what could be done over 3 quarters, 3 academic quarters, into 1.5, 2 quarters. We are looking at the possibility next year of offering it more part-time, evenings, weekends, online, so that students who can't commit to full 40-plus hours a week can still have the opportunity to go through the program and just do it a little bit
Right.
slower pace.
Right. So what kind of response have you seen from the community so far?
Pretty good. I have people contacting me daily with interest. We're having information sessions next Monday, and I have about 25 people signed up already. And it wasn't required to sign up, so that's
Right.
pretty good. And so we have about 20 spaces in the first cohort that can run this spring.
Okay. So that's going to be 20 people working full-time, basically, immersed in education and actually learning how to brew and working with, obviously, experienced brewers to really get their hands wet, per se. So this, what type of things are they going to be learning in this?
So they'll be learning every step of the brewing process from start to finish. We have a one-barrel brewing system that we purchased that's at our facility to do the brewing on. And then they'll be doing, like I mentioned, quality assurance, marketing, distribution, labeling, liquor regulations, the business part of it. And then the microbiology behind brewing, the microscience, the math, all the stuff you need to know, how to clean, how to, the right, correct, different recipes, beer tasting, beer pairing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one thing. A lot of we've talked to dozens and dozens of brewers, and a lot of them were home brewers. And I think it's one thing to know how to brew beer and know that and be able to consistently do that, but almost every single one of them has the problem once they decide to open a brewery. The issues that you've talked about, the regulations, how to market, how to distribute, all of these things that I don't think people really think about. It's like, okay, I can brew beer, let's open a brewery, and there's a lot more to running a business.
Yeah. It is a lot. In doing this, because we're going to be manufacturing, producing, and hopefully selling beer, we are basically in the process of opening a microbrewery.
Okay,
so the lab site will also have a small tap room.
Oh, nice.
And so students will be able to showcase their products.
Very cool.
But we've had to go through the same licensing that any other business would have to go through. Business licensing, liquor cannabis board license,
Nice.
federal licensing. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, and then again, because all these people, and because you've been involved in this now, that's education that these people can learn. Now, like you mentioned early on, the community is very open to each other. I mean, they lend product to each other, from yeast and hops and everything. And they're always open to helping each other, with recipes and everything. So but a lot of people don't have time to get business advice, so this is probably going to be something that would be extremely useful for people to get in. Now, when somebody leaves this program, would they go in as like an entry-level brewer, or would they go in, at the bottom where they're cleaning barrels, which is where a lot of people start?
They could, depending on what types of jobs and what breweries they're interested in working at, but they would have a little bit more skills than, a cleaner, a dishwasher, that kind of thing. So it just depends on where they're going. I did ask the brewers, could someone start their own business from this? And, they said if they have a solid business plan, then yeah, this would be a great starting point for that as well. The internship is a huge component. It's over several weeks, 4 days a week if we can get it, and at local breweries or regional breweries. So people are pretty excited about that and having people come in, and we've talked to them about they can't be cleaning basins all the time, like that they need to be practicing their skills and learning from them. So we're hoping they will be trained to a standard that they could get a decent job.
So I think I saw in some of the outline too that one of the aspects of this is they're also going to be learning some history behind some of the craft and styles and all that.
Yep, that's accurate.
Is that going to be the instructors are going to be teaching that?
Yes.
Okay.
And they've put together for the required texts basically what they've called the Standard Brewer's Library. The textbooks, there's probably 15 to 20 of them that the brewers felt were the most useful that they would reference back to, that kind of gives a great overview, as well as things that are logistically things you need to know.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so is there, when is this going to begin, the program?
We're going to start May 3rd.
Okay, May 3rd. So when is the actual sign up for it?
People can start registering if they're current Skagit students, February 9th, and new students, February 25th.
Okay, awesome.
And it'll be first come, first serve, and we do have about 20 spots.
You have about 20 spots, and you already have 25 people interested in the
Yeah,
informational seminar.
I have about 45 names, 25 coming
Oh,
to the info
okay.
session.
So you may be packed right away?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
So once people are able to register, commit to the time, pay, get started, then
Now, the size of the group is based on what the brewers recommended was an optimum number of people to work with?
yeah, and the size of the facility.
Right.
So we have a facility down at the port, kind of right next to Skagit Valley Malting, right down the street from WSU, across the street from the new Flyers down the Burlington Port, and then kind of
Chuckanut
near the
over there,
Chuckanut
too.
down
Yeah.
there. So we're kind of in this hub,
yeah.
and we have a space, so it has a classroom, instructional space, a small tap room area, and then the back is like the commercial kitchen with the brewing equipment.
Oh, nice.
And some storage space. So students will be in just one spot, one location, where they can do their classroom stuff and head right into the lab, all in the same building.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
That area, all of a sudden, is going to become a little brewery hub itself.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 breweries are going to be there, you know, and you're going to have that too. It's very cool.
Yeah, we're excited. It was kind of a dream come true to be able to be in that kind of hub of energy that's happening down there right now.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, well, thanks very much. We're going to keep in touch. We're going to find out how this is going along the way, and hopefully keep people abreast of maybe down the road be able to talk to some students and see what they thought of it and things like that.
That would be great. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this sounds like a great program, and we're going to keep in touch with them and see how the program goes along.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yes, definitely. And that is it for the Brew News this week.
Welcome back to Northwest Brew Talk. If you want to submit news to Northwest Brew Talk, send us an email to nwbrewtalk@gmail.com. If you've not yet subscribed to our podcast, why not do it now? It's free, available anywhere you listen to podcasts, including iTunes, Podbean, and Stitcher. If you like us, a review or rating would be really appreciated. But make sure to tell your friends about Northwest Brew Talk.
All right, that's right. Okay, over the weekend, we went to do a couple things. We visited Populux to meet with Peter and did an interview with him that'll air next month. It was a great interview.
Yes.
And he's got a nice place there, Populux in Ballard. And it's a small place, but it's cozy, and he's got some great beers.
And, it's small, but then you walk, through and get to see, their his stuff there where he brews beer, and I'm sure see him in action every once in a while.
Yeah.
And then you walk out the back doors, and there's this huge open area and covered area with fire pits, and I mean it's very cool. I'm sure fits a lot of people in there when he can.
Yeah.
I mean, he did talk to us about the line going down the block, so he's got good beers. I'm not surprised that it's busy.
Yeah. And then after that, we drove over to Naked City on Greenwood. And we stopped in there, had a couple Naked City beers and some food. And I hadn't been in there. We've driven past, a dozen times and finally stopped in there. And I have to say, I tweeted about it today, and definitely one of the best hamburgers I've had in a long time.
Yes, considering, it's a hamburger. What would you think it's so great about? But it's a homemade hamburger, and you can taste the seasonings and stuff, and it's really good. And you couldn't beat the deal either. It was a lunch special. You got a fresh burger, fries, and a pint of their beer for $15. So
Yeah, it was a really good deal. And again, tons of beer. And I was surprised because
lots of
they're
beer.
a restaurant, but they carry a lot of other people's beers too,
Yeah.
because they're a restaurant. But again, nice place, and both of them had nice staffs too. So that was a plus too. So definitely a couple places, Populux and Naked City. If you're in Seattle, check them out.
Absolutely.
All right, now, speaking of craft beer, which is what we're doing, one of the industry's pioneers, and definitely the state's pioneers, Mike Hale from Hale's Ales. We had a great interview with him, and we're going to talk to him right now. Here with Mike Hale today. How are you doing?
Doing very good.
Awesome. So I'm going to scoot over here. I think it might be a little easier. I'm sorry. So, what made you want to learn brewing when you started back in the early 80s?
Well, interesting. I didn't really like beer growing up in college. The beer, you go to a kegger out in the country, and it was just seemingly ridiculous. Fizzy stuff gave you a buzz, and that was about it. Didn't care much for beer. I was more into wine. This in California in the Napa Valley. So.
Okay.
Did go to Europe when I was in my early 20s. And traveling around, ended up in Munich and Hofbrauhaus. Well, you're going to have a beer. Might as well have a beer. So we're going to split one. It comes in this huge mug. It's a quart. And took a sip and said, man, this is good stuff. This is really good stuff. So pretty soon we weren't splitting a mug anymore. We were having our own, my wife and I at the time, and just loving it. And go to England and have the ales, the cask condition. You know, that flat warm beer. Turns out it's pretty good. It's flat and warm for a reason. It's always comical when I see these domestic U.S. breweries touting how cold their beer is, and say, man, it's just absolutely backwards. It's cold anesthetizes your taste buds, and can't taste it. Thank goodness for some of those beers. But anyway, then I came home and ordered a beer, and I didn't like beer again. I ordered a German beer, didn't like that. And it just, why do these taste so bad? Are they sending us a different recipe or something? What? Turns out beer's perishable. And so local in the saying in England is when you're given a choice of beers, you buy the one that's closest to where you're sitting. And because, those cask beers are particularly vulnerable to spoilage. I mean, 2 weeks you're talking.
Oh, really? Okay.
On a cask beer. So anyway, the only way to get a really good beer would be to get one brewed locally, and there really were few and far between in those days. You had Anchor's Theme, and of course I didn't know about Sierra Nevada then. They were pretty far south, but so the notion of thinking of, well, what if we, then many years later, like 20 years later, I was in the Napa Valley in Sonoma, and there was a little brewery there making his own beer, one keg at a time, kind of like a 30-gallon brewery.
Wow.
And it was New Albion, and he was selling it to 3 or 4 local taverns around there. So I went and had a glass, and of course it tasted just awful. I said, this is so weird. It was really dark and strong and all kinds of wild yeast character. And I mean, today it would probably be a great beer, but back then it was too much of a shock. But the thought of a guy in his backyard, old chicken coop, making beer and actually selling it really sparked my interest. And you can tell even today how it wasn't such an unusual thing to be interested in that, because today, 3 new breweries open every day in this country, so it's a common thought. Gee, wouldn't it be fun to start a brewery and make our own beer? But back then it was we were on the cutting edge. But I thought I'd give it a try. I had occasion to go to England for a year. My wife was a school teacher, and she did a job exchange with an English teacher. So we changed houses and jobs and everything. And I went along. And while I was there, the small beer movement was alive and well in England. The campaign for real ale. And there were lots of small one-man breweries starting up. I mean, dozens of them. So I was able to worm my way into a local regional, Gales Ales. And once I was properly introduced, which is important in England, we got along great, and they were very, very welcoming and helpful. The thought that an American, a Yank they call me, would want to go back to America and make real beer was very appealing to everybody. So, and then I visited a lot of the one-man breweries around. I even joined their guild over there. And lived there 11 months and learned quite a lot, really.
Awesome.
So English brewing compared to German brewing. English brewing results in very flavorful, complex interesting beers. But it's a very simple process.
Okay.
I mean, it's a week. And you go to Germany, and it results in very bland, well, good, but uniformly pretty simple, bland beers.
Right.
And it's extremely complicated and takes months.
Right.
And tons of equipment. So that's an easy decision. I'm making English beer.
Exactly.
So we came back and in the basement built a little one-barrel system out of some old defunct hot water heaters. They're glass lined, so pretty nice units really. And brewed some beer, and my neighbors and friends thought it's good stuff. So I said, well, why don't y'all kick in a few bucks and we'll start a brewery. So we raised $35,000 and built a little brewery, a 10-barrel brewery down the street, and started from there. And it was pretty fun. I went and talked to a local distributor to distribute it, and they said, nobody's going to buy that stuff. What are you, crazy? And so we went out, and you could buy a keg of the local, Rainier, Bud Miller, all those for $22, $25. We were going to sell ours for the outrageous price of $35, and found a couple local taverns taking. Of course, they're self-distributed, and it was great fun to wheel in a keg and have people get excited about it. We were the about top seller in the pub because of that. I couldn't keep up. I was brewing, selling them 8-10 kegs a week, and so that was really exciting. I was making what in England would be called ordinary bitter. Okay. We called our pale ale because at the time thought bitter, that's a terrible name for a beer. Who's going to buy that? So we call it American pale ale now. So that's kind of what got me into it, and it was interesting. It was more of the fun of it. Trying to sell a keg of beer for $35 and make any money is, of course, impossible. But fortunately, I had no business plan. I wasn't a parent.
Well, that was good. I don't think today you can get away without a business plan. So what's the significance for opening on July 4th, whenever you've opened?
Well, that's just when I was ready.
Oh, yeah?
I finally built it by myself, a one-man brewery. And I was an electrician and a plumber and a carpenter, and had done a variety of things by then. Finally worked on it. And finally, when I was ready to brew a batch of beer, it happened to be the 4th of July. So that was the reason there.
So is that the same thing for any time you've opened a new place? They've all seemed to open on that same date?
Yeah, just coincidence.
Coincidence.
I'm certainly not that organized. Come on.
So, how did you come up with the pale ale?
Well, I say it was an English ordinary bitter. It's a straight copy.
Oh, really?
And I even brought the yeast with me from England in my suitcase.
Okay.
A little freeze-dried ampule of the actual yeast that Gales used.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wonderful yeast. I love that yeast. Top fermenting. We had open fermenters. It was straight English brewing right from the get-go.
Okay. It was basically a copy.
Yeah.
Have you changed it over the years?
Oh, yeah. Changed everything. Yeah, the Northwest has really evolved. I go back to England now, and I can't believe how bland and uninteresting the beers are.
Really?
It's like, and now American beer used to be a joke in England.
Yeah.
Now people travel to America to taste our beers.
Well, yeah.
There's a great beer tourism scene beginning because we have beers you can find nowhere else. Very creative scene going on. It's just pretty fun.
Yeah. So, when you started, what was what was it like? What was it trying to sell beer in an area dominated by Rainier or Olympia or Bud?
Yeah, well, there's always folks that think it's a fun idea, something interesting to try. Even today, you go into a bar and they're drinking the yellow beer and they think it's great.
Yeah.
And they're still drinking. that yuppie beer, whatever they want to call us. And I figure in any given situation, 50% of the people go one way and 50% go the other way. You see that in our elections. Even when there's a clear choice, it's like 50-50. So I figured that I had 50% of the people I could convince. But what was the? I don't know if what was that question again?
Well, what was it like trying to sell in that?
So again, like I say, we thought it was pretty bold to ask for $10 more a keg. Well, now we're selling kegs for $130. It's not really. It's been 32 years. But inflation hadn't been that much by a long shot. So we've kind of tripled the price without. And we're still. I don't think very many folks are getting rich brewing beer, but it's sure a fun way to spend your time. But like I say, that this was over in eastern Washington,
right?
And it is on the West Coast, where people are naturally, I think, more adventuresome.
Okay.
Many have moved here from somewhere else, and for quality of life. And good beer is a quality of life question. And I think I would have had a lot more trouble in other parts of the country that are more staid and set in their ways. And that's, I think, why they're lagging. But they are coming on pretty fast because they have 50% of their people, too, that are, or some percentage that are paying attention to what's going on and not just being stupid.
Right. Did you... Now, obviously, you were charging more per keg, so it was more for a glass or a pint, however they were selling it.
Yeah.
Now, did you find that was...
No, like I say, we were selling eight kegs a week.
Yeah, so...
In a place that even today, find an account that's going to do 8 kegs a week, you got to have some magic going on. You got to be like Mac and Jacks or something.
Yeah, it's especially here, it's tough. And I forgot what the term is, but rotating taps. It's...
Some people complain about rotating taps, but then I say, well, look at it. How could we support how many breweries have got in Warsaw?
Almost 300.
300?
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to support 300 breweries if you don't rotate your taps?
Yeah.
You got to rotate your taps.
Yeah.
We just want to be in the rotation.
Yeah, exactly. 5, 6, 10 down the road, but you're... Yeah, it's definitely...
So I think it's the savior of the industry, the rotating tap, and we shouldn't be complaining about it. It's only if you want to be... kind of piggy and become a big brewer where you complain about a rotating tap. How are you going to build? One guy would say, how am I going to build any brand equity if you won't keep my tap on? I say, well, maybe it's time for someone else to be the most popular beer on the bar.
Yeah. If your beer is good, people will wait or look for it, or that's, again, we were talking earlier, it's about making good beer.
I don't, even with the 280, 300 brewers we have, I don't know very many that aren't brewing as near capacity. Just selling everything they can make.
Exactly, and a lot of them, a year or two after opening, are expanding. So they're selling beer somewhere, their tap room or something.
Yeah, and some of them are really, really expanding and going interstate.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, just anathema to the local beer question.
Right.
You start selling beer 3 or 4 states away, much less across the country, you've just kind of lost sight of what the hell we're doing here. And you're just taking food from the mouths of the babes that have their brewery in those states. Like we, in Washington, I think about half the beer is out-of-state beer. I think, isn't that a shame?
Yeah.
That we have wonderful beer in Washington, yet there are people still buying Oregon beer and California beer, thinking it's better by saying, well, you should do a blind tasting.
Yeah.
Then you tell me if you can pick out the better beer. Chances are it's going to be a Washington beer.
Probably.
Just because it's fresher.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It's not going to be an English beer.
Yeah.
Or a German beer.
Probably not. So... what prompted the move to Seattle when you moved in 95?
Well, when I started over there in eastern Washington, my thought was, if I brew this kind of wonderful beer you can't get it anywhere, the world will beat a path to my door. Unfortunately, they didn't. So I found myself driving to Seattle every week in an old step van, bringing beer to Seattle where the market was. So.
And you're doing that to Spokane too earlier, right?
Yeah. So when the opportunity came to build something in Seattle, I jumped at it, and it's been a good move. We started over on the east side, which is really more like California than anything.
Okay.
And it was even more fun to move over to the Seattle side, where I think that percentage of people paying attention is quite a bit higher.
Okay. Yeah. So, do you find it interesting that your original 12 barrel has been sold several times to start new breweries? Your 12 barrel equipment, yeah.
No, that's not unusual.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking to start up. Sometimes you see a guy that comes and he's obviously got a lot of money up front, and you say, well, must be his dad.
Yeah.
Because trying to make the economic argument for a small brewery is pretty sketchy.
Yeah.
But most guys are scrounging around trying to get something going, and that's kind of great. Here's some equipment we don't need anymore, and let someone else get started with it. We've always felt better to get along and share and help each other, because the more brewers, the better. And some might say, well, that's up to a point, but we haven't really hit that point yet. It seems it just keeps on going, and many brewers gives us quite a bit more creativity and interest, and so far it's really been a good thing to have. And that's the beauty of the local beer industry, is that typically everyone's pretty friendly and works together and would help out. If you had a problem, you needed a yeast strain or a box of hops you didn't have, more often than not, the guy down the street's going to loan it to you.
Yeah, we've heard that. I just did an interview with a smaller brewery that said one of the bigger breweries gave them some hops that they had, extra of. And that's, most of the people we've met have been extremely nice, and you hear the same comments that somebody will help you out or help you with whatever you might need, and it really is an interesting industry. There's not a lot like that where you're competitors, but everybody seems to be extremely friendly with each other.
Yeah, for sure.
So, talking about that now, we were talking about the new numbers just came out from the Brewers Association that in November they just broke the record. That was from 1873 with the number of breweries in the country. We're up to 4,144 now, and that broke the record that was from 1873, which is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's still really no end in sight?
Well, I wouldn't hazard a guess.
Yeah.
I've been wrong so many times. Ideally, every town should have 5 or 6 breweries, and every city should have 100 of them. But the danger is when you see some of these successful craft brewers becoming really mega breweries, and they're just taking more than their fair share of the deal. It's like when we started, there were, I don't know how many, say 30 brewers in the country.
Yeah.
And so that means there were 30 brewmasters in the country.
Yeah, exactly.
Now there's 4,000 and some brewmasters in the country.
Yeah.
And what killed the first surge was, of course, Prohibition. But even beyond that, it was consolidation.
Right.
And the big guys getting bigger and the small guys getting swallowed up. And you see that happening now. Elysian was just swallowed up. Before them, Red Hook and Widmer and Kona and Goose Island in Chicago, they're all in that same umbrella now. And I guarantee that the beer isn't getting any better. And the creativity isn't getting any better. So it's a shame. And if people would just get behind the buy local mantra, because it's true and it's the best to buy local for any number of reasons besides that it's the best beer, simply because it's the freshest beer.
Right.
And we could maybe rein that in. You know, passing laws is never a very good idea, but you could say breweries shouldn't be bigger than our size.
Perfect size,
10,000
right?
barrels. I mean, we've got a lot of employees to make 10,000 barrels, and same number of employees can make 100,000 barrels. Same number, and do.
Yeah.
So why not have 10 of them? 10 times as many people employed in the beer business, making the same amount of beer, and with much more creativity and interest,
Right.
and local freshness. And I mean, my friends in the industry, probably some of them, the big ones, wouldn't agree, of course. But you got to wonder, explain to me your motive, other than money, for getting so big. You think your beer's that great? Because let's sit down and have a blind tasting. I'll show you how great your beer is.
Ballast Point would probably argue that point.
Yeah.
$1 billion. That's a lot of money, and I'm sure there's a
What's
lot
a billion? They were bought for that, or?
Yeah.
Oh.
Last month.
Well, that is all about the money then.
Well, then definitely that's about the money.
$1 billion, really?
$1 billion.
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. So when you see that, and you see a bunch of guys, you know, with a 10, 30 barrel, whatever, you know, they see that, and I'm sure they're saying, hey, 5, 10 years,
Why
maybe
not
we
me?
can be, yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's unique. You know,
Yeah, that's
when a
definitely
brewery
the biggest.
becomes successful, there's a fair amount of magic involved that's really unexplainable for the most part. Otherwise, a lot of people would be doing it. Somebody teaching a class on how to do it.
Exactly.
And there is no class on how to do it. It just happens. It's like lightning striking.
Yeah.
So, about $1 billion, what was their capacity?
I'm not sure, but it's probably not $1 billion worth.
Who bought them?
Miller, I believe.
No
Miller, I forget who, but yeah, there's.
Well,
you got Miller, Heineken.
Well, we can write Ballast Point off then.
You got a bunch of them getting into it. They're all the big ones are getting into it.
Well, you can see, like,
Lagunitas.
before, when we were just a blip on the market, the big brewers wouldn't even introduce a new brand unless they get 2.5% of the market, is what I heard.
Oh, really?
Well, the whole industry was 2.5% of the market back in the day.
Yeah.
And now to think that in Washington, Oregon, I understand we're at 50% of the market. So obviously the big brewers are paying attention.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be able to do it themselves. They got to buy some brewery that has a reputation and think that they're going to fool some people by. There's that old term, there's craft beer, and then there's crafty beer.
Yeah.
And hopefully our consumer, if we don't have educated consumers, you know, we're doomed.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you still see that even today, that you have to educate people?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. Most of it, they're very willing. They say, "Oh man, I didn't think I liked beer." Like you tell me about your wife earlier. Right. It's just, I don't like beer. I said, "Well, you haven't tried our beer yet."
Yeah.
Because I didn't like beer until I tried my beer.
Exactly.
Or something like my beer.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I know you're going to be talking about it later, but today is the anniversary of repeal. So, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, prohibition is a bad idea. Just enrich a bunch of thugs and criminals.
Yeah, really, that's what it did.
And the thought is, well, that's really the dark side of our industry, the damaging effects of addiction, alcohol addiction. And that bothers me on occasion, but, you know, everybody's kind of an individual and they make their own choices. And so many people do enjoy good beer without it ruining their life. And I'm an example of that. It hadn't ruined my life. I drink beer every day, you know. And but anyway, I don't know what you're going to do. Obviously, the experiment failed, so it was a bad idea.
Right.
And but that's the nature of it. It's got the good side and it's got the not so good side. Fortunately, in our segment of the industry, the good side way outweighs the bad side. You don't find many alcoholics getting hung up on a on an imperial stout.
Yeah, exactly.
They're out drinking the fortified malt liquor, you know.
Exactly, and I'm sure that's where a lot of it comes from. But yeah, I've wondered about that too. You know, it is an industry that, in one way, has some bad overtones to it because of that aspect of it. But yeah, it is. How can as long as people aren't abusing it, which people abuse everything. There's all kinds of things that can be abused.
Heck, on occasion, I will abuse it. I've had one too many a couple of times,
That does happen.
I've survived and learn your lesson, kind of. But I'm getting kind of old now, 72. You think I'd have learned it for sure. But
Well, now you don't have to worry about it. But well, Mike, I'd like to thank you for taking a little time to talk with us today.
Nice talking to you.
All right, we'd like to thank Mike Hale for taking the time to join us today. Definitely one of the craft pioneer. And, what else can you say, especially after listening to what he has to say? It's
Absolutely.
just amazing that guy's still around, still is passionate about beer. So that's a great thing.
And not just his beer either.
Oh, yes. It's about local. He just wants you to drink whoever's the closest beer to you, really.
Yeah.
It's not just about him. He just wants to be part of it. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, you're all right. All right, and we will be right back after a local music break from Bread and Butter.
She blew my mind, to say the least. She made my world feel so damn free, like the sun rising right up through my head. Now it feels like the worst of times, they were the buried of hell. I close my eyes, I had a dream, a girl so cool, a fool like me. Now you got me riding circles through my head. And don't it seem like the worst of times, they were the best we'd ever had. Don't it seem like the worst of times, they were the best we'd ever had. Waking up the sun, we're burning out, but it's so much fun. I'm falling. Where are you taking me? Oh, blowing out this town. Are we breaking up a street, breaking down? I'm for you wherever you pull my leash. Don't it seem like the worst of times, they were the best we ever had? Don't it seem like the worst of times, they were the best we ever had? Don't it seem like the worst of times, they were the best we ever had?
That was Worst of Times by Bread and Butter. You can check them out at Bread and Butter. That's bread, the letter N, butter.bandcamp.com. If you want to have your music played on Northwest Brew Talk, contact us today. And now, let's try another beer.
All right, Bainbridge Brewing, and this is Kommuter Kolsch.
Bainbridge Brewing is located on Bainbridge Island. They are open 7 days a week and are family and dog friendly. Their Kommuter Kolsch has the description on their website for the beer. Kolsch is a light malty German ale brewed like a lager for maximum clarity and a bright, clean, refreshing taste. Malt, German Pilsner, Vienna, Caramel, and sour malts, and the hops sterling. The story behind the beer. A specter is haunting Bainbridge Island, the specter of Kolsch. Thousands of people each day ride the ferry to and from Seattle. Kommuter Kolsch is our gift to those grim, huddled masses, straining under the yoke of 35 minutes spent drinking coffee, checking their email, chatting with associates, and enjoying the view. Victory to the ferry Tarriot. 5% ABV, 20 IBUs, and an untapped rating of 3.5.
All right, very light colored. Nice head on it. And it's got a nice flavor. Very,
Oh, yeah, it does.
Very, very mild flavor. Nice drinking
Yep.
beer. But yeah, it's got nice, complex, like I said, it's light color, but it's definitely not a mega beer.
No, yeah.
Because there's flavor in it, and it's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, definitely. 2 good ones tonight for sure.
Absolutely. I don't think that these will go another night.
That's right. They will be gone, as will we. All right.
I want you to give me fresh beer. You serious?
This week's fresh beer is available at Geaux Brewing and is called Gris Gris. In the tradition of molding styles to suit our palates, our ESB is blend of old world English style bitter, pale ales, and West Coast hoppiness. Just the right amount of malt character, but with the hop aroma and flavor that makes it just a little bit different than what you're used to in an ESB. It's got a 5.4% ABV and 42 IBUs.
All right. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Northwest Brew Talk.
Make sure to tune in next week when we chat with Matt from Fremont.
All right. This show is produced and edited by me with engineering help from Michelle Rizzo.
If you want to contact us, you can email us at nwbrewtalk@gmail.com or contact us on Twitter at nwbrewtalk. Our theme music is from Gilbert Neal at gilbertneal.com.
Yes, thank you very much. That's brand new this week. We appreciate that, Gil. And until next time, I'm Mike Rizzo.
And I'm Michelle Rizzo.
Stay hoppy, my friends.
Thousands of people each day ride the ferry to and from Seattle.
Seattle, yeah. Well, if you're from Washington, Seattle's probably where it is.